What is going on, everyone? This is a special episode of Drew Code Sports Talk, or a mini-sode, if you will, for you Bluey avid listeners. I am your host, Andrew Wright, and we are going to be talking about what literally just happened about an hour ago. The Las Vegas Raiders traded for Geno Smith by giving up a third-round pick. So, kind of interesting. This is an interesting deal here. I think a lot of people might think that this is a long-term deal, and I don't believe so. However, I do feel like Pete Carroll does like Geno Smith, but I don't think he believes that Geno Smith is going to be, the answer for the Raiders going forward. I think this is what you would call, and this is what I told Cody as soon as the news came out. This is our bridge quarterback. This is officially, this move guarantees that the Raiders draft a quarterback in this draft. Guarantees it. And you might be looking at it going, well, I don't know. Like, you got Geno Smith, they got Aiden O'Connell, they just let go of Gardner Minshew. Listen, Aiden O'Connell is a nice backup. Geno Smith is a starting quarterback in the NFL. Whether you agree with it or not, he is a starting quarterback in the NFL. He is not going to go to a team and be the backup. But he is also, like I just said, he is more of a bridge quarterback. I don't think he's a franchise-type quarterback, in my opinion. I think he's good enough with the right pieces around him. He can be somewhat successful. I don't deny that at all. I do believe that Geno Smith could do something. Could win more than 4 games for the Raiders this year. Okay, I do believe that. But however, there's reports that the Raiders are going to let go of their center Andre James. There's a lot of reports that now the Raiders are probably going to be going after offensive linemen in the draft. So there's a lot of speculation going on right now. And for the most part, I tend to think that this is how it's going to go. I think we are going to draft a lot of offensive linemen. And here's the deal. I think, like I said, I fully believe that this guarantees the Raiders are going to draft a quarterback, but later in the rounds. Here's why. I think what the Raiders are going to do is they want to build up a quarterback. Aiden O'Connell is nice. He's fine. He's going to be a career backup quarterback. In my opinion, I don't think he's going to get much better. I think he's hit his ceiling. He's not terrible. He doesn't turn the ball over a ton, but he's not really going to do much with the ball either. He's going to be very, very conservative, and that's typically what happens with a backup quarterback. Okay? I'm not hating on Aiden O'Connell. What I am saying, though, is yes, Geno Smith is nice, but they're not going to rely on Geno Smith and Aiden O'Connell. Okay? It's not going to happen. Here's the thing. Chip Kelly has a connection with Will Howard. Now, I know everyone's going to look at me and go, Andrew, Will Howard had arguably one of the worst NFL draft combines that we've ever seen from a quarterback. And I will give you this. It wasn't fantastic. I get it. But if you are basing drafting a player off of the combine, then you are exactly where you need to be right now. Because there is a reason you are not an NFL GM. Now, I'm not saying that I know all this. But the fact of the matter is, do you understand how hard it is to be a quarterback and get drafted? I don't think people fully realize how good of a player you have to be drafted by a team. Not just signed, not signed to the practice squad, to be drafted. And every year we always talk about, these quarterbacks, there's a reason that quarterbacks, like specifically this year, Shedeur Sanders and Cam Ward arguably are not the best players in the draft. But because of their position, because of the importance of that position, they get moved up into the NFL draft. They get picked in the top 5. It's just, whether it's fair or not, that's the reality of the situation. So, for all intents and purposes, to get drafted in the NFL, you have to be good. Plain and simple. It doesn't matter what position you are. If you're a quarterback, we always look at first round quarterbacks as those guys are going to start. We look at second round quarterbacks like probably going to take a year, then going to start. We look at a third round quarterback and going probably a backup. We'll get lucky if he hits. But that is not the case. That is not how we need to look at the draft. How you need to look at the draft, specifically drafting a quarterback, is if you're drafting a quarterback in any of these rounds, these guys have to be talented. Right now, we are making the argument for Brock Purdy. And Brock Purdy, listen, is he the most talented guy? No. But he has been extremely good. And he was picked what? In the 6th round? 7th round? 7th round, excuse me. And he still has to be good enough to play. And to have Kyle Shanahan, arguably a big quarterback whisperer, and he has to impress him enough to put him in the starting lineup. And he did. And it's funny because he worked out better than Trey Lance, who was drafted in the 1st round, who is way more talented, way more athletic, but doesn't have the poise and the accuracy. So just because you're drafting a quarterback in the 1st round or in the 7th round does not mean these guys, the 1st rounder is better. No, it means he's got more upside, but the 7th rounder can still be a talented enough quarterback to play in the NFL. So I say all that to say this. Will Howard is going to be drafted by the Raiders. I think the connection is obvious, but I'll say it. Will Howard was under Chip Kelly this year at Ohio State. Will Howard was always a really good quarterback and really thrived with Ohio State. Okay, Andrew, but look at his receivers. Look at those receivers. Look at the offensive line. Look at the defense. Look at what they did against Notre Dame. Those are valid points. Valid points. I understand that. But when you get a quarterback who not only knows the offense and you draft him, not only is that going to help him in the long run, and it's going to be a great fit for him, but also he is going to be able to help that current quarterback with the offense. I think it's clear cut that Will Howard is probably, no matter where he gets drafted at, if it's not Las Vegas and it's somewhere else, Will Howard is going to be drafted. And we also understand that Will Howard is probably not going to be a starter for any team that he gets drafted by. I think it's safe to say that. Now, there's probably like 2 or 3 teams that might draft him later on that would probably, you could make an argument, oh, he actually might start for them. But I don't think it's that clear cut. And here's the thing. Will Howard, let's say, gets drafted by the Raiders. He's not going to start. Geno Smith is going to be the starter. I don't think that's crazy to say. And I think there's a possibility that if Geno Smith stays another year with the Raiders, that I think Geno Smith could start the next 2 years. I don't think that's crazy to say. But what I will say is Will Howard being drafted by the Raiders and being under Chip Kelly in his offense, he is not only going to help himself in the long run, but he also is going to be able to help Geno Smith with the offense. He can tell Geno, hey, this is the terminology he uses for the screens. This is the terminology he wants us to use on audibles. These are the terminology that he wants to use when he wants you to throw a behind the shoulder type of a pass, or when he wants you to throw it to the corner, or when he wants you to use for hot routes. These are the 2 terms. These are the 3 terms. When he says, rhino, that means right. When he says, lion, that means left. Type just stuff like that. And you might be like, Andrew, that's all simple stuff. Yeah, I understand that. But he's going to be able to help Geno Smith, which in turn is going to want Geno Smith to also help coach up Will Howard. And so now you have a guy who's not stubborn in Geno Smith. He is not a I'm the best quarterback out there. He's not like unrealistic. He's not going to create a lot of controversy. That's not who Geno Smith is. And now you help him by understanding the offense a lot quicker, because now you got two guys who understand things and who can help them and can see it from different perspectives. And not only that, now he's going to want to return the favor by helping his predecessor and help him get ready to be a starter in the NFL. Now, is it possible that Will Howard never plays for the Raiders? I think it's possible, but I do think that if Chip Kelly is in the room, he is going to want Will Howard to be on his team. Why? Because he already understands the offense, he already understands the terminology, and he also understands what Chip Kelly, he sees the bigger picture, what he wants to do. So, I do think that the Raiders, yes, I know they traded a third round pick, but they had two in this draft. I think in the third round, Will Howard is drafted by the Raiders. Unless the Raiders trade down in the second round and gain a couple of other picks, I think it could be a late second round pick, possibly early third round pick, but I would probably go like middle of the road. And because of that NFL Combine, the workout, I do, however, feel like he could potentially drop, and we could get him in the fourth round, which would even be a bigger steal. Because the further down you get drafted, the less money that quarterback's going to get. Yet I do think Will Howard can be a starting quarterback in the NFL. Call me crazy. That's fine. I don't care. It does not bug me. But I do feel like Will Howard is not getting into this NFL draft if he's not talented enough. It is very possible that he got super nervous. The NFL Combine is a lot of pressure. He had a lot to gain, not much to lose, and I don't think he lost much because of the workout. I think people on the internet are just willing to, wanting to make fun of someone, which is fine. I get it. But at the same time, I do think, however, Will Howard is a starting quarterback in the NFL, and I do feel like he can be drafted, and I think he will be drafted by the Raiders. And this is the perfect scenario. Now, you might go, well, I know you were kind of pushing for Shedeur Sanders, so why all of a sudden the change? Listen, Shedeur Sanders is good, and if he drops to the sixth pick, I think the Raiders have a real issue on their hands. Do they draft Shedeur Sanders? Because not only does Tom Brady like him, but Mark Davis, for all intents and purposes, really likes him. So you kind of have to outweigh, like, okay, what are we going to do now? Do we draft Shedeur Sanders if he's available? I don't think, however, he is going to be available. I just don't see that happening. I think he's going to be traded. I think he's going to be drafted before the Raiders get there. But the funny thing is too, is the Raiders have now told you we are not trading up. We are not trading up unless they're going after Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter. They're not trading up. It's not happening. That trade for Geno Smith just told you we are not trading up. And arguably, you could make the case that they may trade down. If they want to get one of the better offensive linemen, they actually may trade down to get an offensive line guy. Where are you? Sorry. I'm driving. I'm wondering what this guy is doing. So sorry. But for real, I could see the Raiders actually trading down. There's so much depth at the D-line and O-line in this draft, and receivers. I don't want to draft a receiver early. I don't want to draft an offensive lineman early. I don't want to draft a defensive lineman early, and I don't want to draft a quarterback early. Now, before it was Shedeur Sanders is going to be our savior, but now Geno Smith makes the Raiders competent. I don't know if Geno Smith puts us into the playoffs. I'm not ready to say that yet. But I do, obviously, we are going to be better. We're going to win more than 6 games. Maybe at 6. No, I think we'll win a few more. I think we'll get at least 7. But can it make us a playoff team? No, because unfortunately, in our division, I believe we have probably either the worst quarterback still in our division, or at least the third best quarterback in the division. So, obviously Mahomes and Herbert are 1 and 2. I could see you putting Smith at number 3, or you can make the argument for Nix. I don't think we've seen enough of him yet. He's got a sophomore year coming up this year, so I would want to wait to see about that. But right now, in my opinion, Geno Smith is probably number 3 in the division, and that could possibly get you a wild card spot, but we shall see. It'll be very, very interesting to see what the Raiders do. But to me, what this says, number one, we're not trading up unless it's for Abdul Carter and Travis Hunter, and I don't see us getting them. And number 2, this says Geno Smith is our bridge quarterback. And number 3, this tells me we're going after Will Howard, probably 3rd round in my opinion. So that's my thoughts on the Raiders getting Geno Smith. I think this is a good move. This is not the move for, 10 years from now, but this is a move that will help us forward to getting to our goal in those next 10 years. So I think this is a smart trade, and we don't lose a lot. We lost the 3rd round pick, and we had 2 of them. So I think that's just a smart move. So good job, Raiders. Love it. And we'll see what happens. Thank you guys for listening. Appreciate you guys. And hopefully Cody has some more insight.